All right, so this was the first question we talked about. That's a trig value. So I'm looking for tan negative stuff. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm doing. And I'm thinking about, okay, where could this angle have been? So when you took the tan of it, it was negative. So therefore, I could only be in which two quadrants? And tan is the diagonally one. Something in quadrant 2 and something in quadrant 4. Okay, then we're going to connect them to the closest x-axis. Okay, so the goal of all this is to figure out the angle. So we knew from sine law, cosine law, that unit, that to get to an angle, we're going to have to do some inversing. Okay, what's really important about what I type in? Do you remember that rule that I had yesterday? Don't put the negative into the calculator. Okay, make sure this is always positive. Okay, you've already done the negative business. Okay, you put that into the location part, so that's where the negative has gone. Okay, so make sure you're always in degree mode here. Okay, this value that they gave us in the calculator, that's called a reference angle. All right, I get people who just inverse it and then they get an angle here and they think they're done the whole problem. Okay, that is not your answer at all. That's just telling me the space between. So I have to figure out my answer. So the math work there would be I'm less than the 180 line. So 180 minus makes 160. And over here I can see the location is below 360. I'm a little bit below 360, so 360 minus. So those are my two answers. Okay, you can check on your test if you're right. So a quick check would be what's the tan of 340 degrees equals negative 0.364. Okay, so that was the easy kind. So you won't actually get any of those probably on the test, because now this is what I'm looking for. So remember when I talked about your algebra foundation from last unit? So here's what I need you to always think about with algebra. If I have one variable, I'm going to isolate it. If I have two variables, I, no matter what, have to do something before I activate my brain. What's the first thing I do? Two variables has to equal 0. Okay, then what do we process next? Can I factor it? 4 styles. If I can't factor it, formula. Okay, always your checklist from last unit. Okay, so here we go. I need to figure out the trig value. Okay, so the trig value means sine theta alone. Okay, so tell me which kind of maneuver would you do? So can you isolate? Should you factor? Should you formula it? What's your instinct saying here? Isolate. Okay, I only have one variable, type. Okay, so what are my moves? Subtract 4, divide by 2. Okay, if you're somebody who wants to stop there, that will give you 20%. Okay, what have I figured out? I've figured out the trig value. That's all I've figured out. Okay, that's your important first step though. Figure out the trig value with math algebra. Okay, so now we're going to talk about angle stuff. Ready? Where? Astica where? Where could I be here? So sine has to have a positive trig value. So Astica where? Sine positive. Okay, I'm going to already know that I'm making a connection to the x-axis for reference. Okay, I'm ready to start talking about angle stuff. So now I'm going to be jumping to my calculator with a sine inverse. Now, I would like you to do bracket 1/2 like that. So make sure you have a bracket around that group, right? Did you get 30 degrees out of that one? Okay, not our answer. What have we gotten to now? A reference. So this answer, I'm 30 degrees bigger than 0. So 30 degrees. Okay, and that quadrant, you better be somewhere between 0 and 90, right? This one is 30 degrees less than 180, right? So 150. Okay, number 5, we need to do algebra. So again, your algebra from last unit, should you isolate, factor, formula? Isolate. There is only one variable type, cos theta. That's it. So let's go minus 4 cos thetas to both sides and make a collection of them. Subtract a 4. Divide by 3. Okay, so this, again, step 1, you work to get a trig value. Okay, so step 2, we're going to think about where could this have been. Cos negative on the Astica, cos negative. So you should pick the left. Okay, connect this stuff to the x-axis. And now we're prepared for calculator stuff, right? Cos inverse, what should you be typing here though? Bracket, no negative in there. We've already done the negative. Okay, we did the negative into the drawing. Go to 1 decimal here. So this was a reference. Okay, so this one would be less than 180. And then on this side, you're going to be more than the 180 line. So get your 2 answers doing that. Make sure your answers make sense, because you always know if that's your quadrant, you're between 180 and 270. Here, you're between 90 and 180 for sure, right? Okay, and again, you can still check your answer, right? You just plug that in, see if that equation side equals that other equation side. Okay, number 6. So, last unit's the first startup always here. Isolate, factor, formula. We need some kind of strategy along that line. Factor with a style of simple trinomial. Did we see it? We're equal to 0, so that's good. Okay, so here's my simple trinomial. What makes cos squared? I need a cos theta and a cos theta. What multiplies to -2 and adds to 1? So I need 2 times 1, and I need to add to the plus 1, so I need to do what on my signs? Okay, so now, just like last unit, we're going to go cos theta equals -2, cos theta equals 1. Okay, we're doing the exact same stuff as last unit, except for we're not using just an x, right? We're just plopping something different in there. Okay, so this gives us 2 situations. So we're going to have to treat them separately, okay? Okay, so here we go. Situation number 1. Cos negative. Where? So your answer to that should have been the 2 and 3 quadrants left. Now I'm ready for my calculator. So I'm going to cos inverse 2. Did you get something wonky in your calculator? Error, or I'm not sure what yours says. So there's an error, okay? So there is no angle that does this. So I'm going to write, there's no angle. There's no solution for this to happen. Okay, done. Moving to the next option here, cos theta equals 1. This is a positive trig value, so positive trig for cos is 1/4 to the right. So I'm going to cos inverse 1. And I got 0 degrees. Okay, so what happens if I go 0 degrees up? 0. What happens if I'm 0 degrees backwards? Off this line is 360. I'm above 0 by 0 and I'm below 360 by 0. So those are my 2 answers. Technically, your angle, you didn't know that, but that's what it looked like. It's just straight there, 0, 360. Okay. Pick me an algebra stuff. What do we want to do here? Isolate, factor, formula. I can isolate. I can also factor if I move. Okay, those 2 strategies would have worked, either one. Okay, so here's the important thing. What squares to make 4? Plus or minus 2. So if we think about that, we can say tan theta equals 2, tan theta equals negative 2, because plus or the minus when you can square something. If you had factored it, you would have had a difference of squares over there, right? X plus 2, x minus 2, like that kind of idea, right? Lots of you forgot plus minus stuff on that last test. That's important. There's 2 answers. Okay, so you got to split this. You're going to do 2 entire kind of problems now. So, tan positive diagonals off of 1 and 3. Tan inverse the number 2. So 63.4 degrees. Okay, so this one is that much past 0. This one is past 180, so I'm going to add 180, right? Okay, when I jump to the other stream here, I'm still going to be using this 63.4 because it's still the reference, okay? Because 2, negative 2, right? I don't care because I just write 2. So I'm still going to go with this reference, but to be negative tan, I'm going to put myself into quadrants 2 and 4 to be negative on the tan, right? Astica. So this location is less than 180. And that location was less than 360. So 360 minus 63.4. Okay? I have 4 answers to this question. 4 different angles work for me. Okay. This one. So to do this, I'm going to isolate. So I'm going to minus 7. Okay. So this is my trig value. Okay, this is weird because every single question we've dealt with, we're like, hey, is this trig value positive or negative? Is 0 positive or is 0 negative? It's not any of those. Okay, so if I think about my Astica, so I can't be positive, I can't be in there, and I can't be negative, leaving me with what options to where I can be? I can't be inside any quadrant. So where could I be? I have to be on a line. Okay? So what are my options for answers? 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. Those are some options. Which ones work? Okay? So you can go to your calculator and you only have 5 to test. So does 0 degrees, so sine of 0, does it give you 0? Yep. Okay, so 0 degrees is an answer. The sine of 90, will it give me 0? No. So cross that off, it didn't work. Sine of 180? Yep. Any predictions? There's 3 answers to that. Okay, so that one was a little tricky because it wasn't in. It wasn't positive or negative. Okay, so it's going to get you a little bit harder here. We have to get harder on the algebra. Okay, so pick me a strategy. Can I isolate? No, I have 2 variables. There's a sine x, cosine x. That's like having 2 letters, right? Okay, I'm equal 0, so that's good. So my next brain move is, can I factor? That's my next question. Is it a style? It's one of the 4 styles. So which one can it be? There's only 2 terms, so your trinomials are out. That helps you. Now I'm down to 2 options. It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I've narrowed you down to the 2 out of the 4. GCF. Okay, so here's my 2 terms. What could I divide out of each of those terms? What do they both have in them? Cos x out. Cos x times what makes that? Cos x times what makes that? Okay, so your math work here from last unit, that's all you've done right now. Like how I say, last unit was important. You've identified your strategy. You've gotten to a trig value. Okay, cos 0, again, not positive or negative. So something has to work on the line. Do we have any suggestions since the sine 0 were these 3? What do you think the cos 0 will be? The other 2. So 90 and 270. You could test them all, but those are the 2 that would work. Okay, I'm going to go through this a little faster, so don't worry about typing it into your calculator. First, sine negative. Where? So you should draw that. Where negative sine. Second, I'm going to sine inverse with no negative, and I get 9.6, so don't do some calculator type right now just to save some time. You've practiced that. Okay, less than 360. Does that make sense there? Less than 360. And this one is what? More than 180. Okay, a little bit harder. I need a strategy from last unit. Isolate, simple trinomial, complex trinomial, difference of squares, GCF, or formula. Those are your checklists of things you know. Complex trinomial. Okay, so I have to multiply to what and add to what? I have to multiply to a floor 12, and I have to add to a negative 13. What are your 2 numbers that you can multiply to 12? to get to that 13? So that's what I'm looking to make as it factors. We found a set, we can factor this. Okay, tell me what kind of bracket FF could make me a 3 sine squared. Sine x times 3 sine x. That's the only way, right? L, you could have 1, 4, or you could have 2, 2. Okay, so our sets that connect have to make a 12 and a 1. So what are your connectors here to make a 12 and a 1? 12 and 1. 12 of those signs and 1 of them. Okay, now you got your connectors here, your O hooks, your I hooks. So this is a sine x, so I better connect it to a 1. So there, I can already see my rainbow hooks are making a sine x, 1 sine x, and 12 sine x, right? Negative, negative. Sine x equals 4, sine x equals 1/3. Okay, so I'm just going to save you this work so we can get to some homework time. So the first thing I would have done, sine positive is in the ups. Then I would jump to my calculator to sine inverse 4, where the calculator is telling me there's an error. So I'm going to write here, there's no angle, so no solution to this. So the other option, up, up. Okay, and then I'm going to sine inverse 1/3 to get 19.5 degrees. So I need to be 19.5 degrees off. So this is bigger than 0. So 19.5 degrees off. And I have to be 19.5 degrees less than 180, right? Okay. We're going to save this next one so I can give you enough time to work. What do you think the next one's going to require? Maybe the formula doesn't factor. Okay, what does the back side of your notebook look like? Is it blank?
Yes.
Okay, go to it. Okay, what's the first thing we've always been doing? Get a trig value. Number 1, get a trig value. What are some of the things we did to get a trig value? Isolate, factor, okay, underneath factor, you got 4 things to look for. Or you could quadratic formula if nothing of those are working, right? Okay, so that's why this last unit we did was important, because that gets you to this. Number 2, where okay, you figure out where. What did we do third? We inverse the trig value. Okay, we inversed to get to a reference angle. And then we did our final answer. So there's 4 options to get your final answer. 0 plus reference. Does that make sense in my math? I'd have to just do 0 plus the reference. 180 subtract reference would be the answer in that one. How do you get this answer? 180 plus reference. 360 subtract the reference. Okay? And then you guys saw those 0 trig values are just special, right? Because now they're not in a quadrant, so I just have to figure out, well, which line is it on. If it's not in a quadrant, it's on the line, right? Okay? Does that make sense? Those are your breakdowns. Okay, so when I said last unit, this has to be solidified. Okay? I'm not going back to teach you how to do this, right? That was supposed to be mastered moving into this unit, okay?